we share the sound of the chime 3 times to recognize and honor those who have been here past, all present now, and those who will be part of this beloved community in the future. I want to invite you this morning to join in some song. And it's a version of a song that's in the hymnal, Bright Morning Star, but it's a different version. And we have a video teacher named Mark Buckles who will teach it to us in this particular, and I think likely more historically accurate Appalachian version. Please rise in body or in spirit. Bright Morning Star. Jake, we're ready for that video. Should be Bright Morning Star. I know we sent you the link before, so you had it. We'll give it a minute, and then plan B. Sean, do you know a version of this song by any chance? I do. It's in the hymnal. No, that's not the one. You're going to want to look for Mark Buckles. Let's go. We'll go with this one if it's got lyrics. Yeah. This is a little different one.
Bright morning stars arise.
Bright morning stars in the hymnal. You'll have to look in the index and back. I don't remember the page number on that. It's near the front. The index, it's in the gray hymnal, I believe. Yeah, Bright Morning Stars in the gray hymnal. I'm thinking 30 something, but I can't tell you for sure. Huh? Did you find it? Just to introduce you, this is a learning opportunity for everyone. In the back of the hymnal is an index of first lines and titles of hymns. That at times like this you go, what is that hymn? Blah, blah, yeah, 357, people found it. But now everyone will know how to look in the future. So we're going to do this version, little different version, but a lovely version, 357. Let's roll that one that you've got up, Jake.
You want me to just do it live?
He's got this one going, let's go.
Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Days are breaking in my soul. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising.
Good morning. I'm Laleen Fifield, and I am your service leader for today, and it's really great to see you on this bright, sunny day. You're welcome here, of course. All of you are welcome. We love seeing new faces come in. If you're here for the first time, we hope that you'll stay. Also, I want to give some gratitude to several people. I want to give some gratitude to our minister, Dennis Reynolds. It's been such a joy to have him, and I just want to put that out to the congregation. I don't think publicly over the waves we say that enough. Also, great appreciation for our greeters who are here every single Sunday morning, and the organization of that lies with Al and Mary Herring, and we most appreciate our media tech, Jake Tranter, and our musician, Sean Shea. So welcome, everyone. When you get a chance, say hi to some of those folks if you haven't already. I have a few announcements. They're not in your order of service, so let me give them to you verbally. The first one is about the Pride Parade. It is happening in Roseburg on June 22nd, beginning at 11 a.m. We will be meeting at the courthouse, and there will be a Unitarian contingency. We're not sure how large. That'll depend on how many of you come, but you'll find us in our yellow shirts, as you can currently see Sean wearing. There are a few yellow shirts available if you do not have one, and they are $18, and that can be had after the service. The second announcement is the return of Roy Zimmerman in concert on the 11th of July. There are a couple of flyers around. There will be more out and available. If you're going somewhere, please take one and pin it up in those places where people congregate. Roy, as you may remember, was here last fall. I missed it because I got COVID, but our congregation stepped in, and it was really a very successful concert, and every time he comes, people want him back. This season, of course, since it is a political season, Roy Zimmerman has a great deal to say about that. That concert on July 11th starts at 7 p.m. And the last announcement is much more current, and that's our congregation conversation after the service today. I did leave out one thank you, however, and that thank you goes to Kimberly Price, who you will see soon. Kimberly has a cooking thing, and she continues to grace us each time there is an event with cookies and biscuits and yummies of yummies. So when you see her, if you do not know her, she'll be up here very shortly, and you might want to remember, because she's a little shy and won't toot her own horn. At this point in the service, we do take a collection for the Fish. Fish is a wonderful organization that we and many other churches have given to and served on their boards and been a part of for a lot of years. Your contributions of food or money are most welcome and would be greatly appreciated and put to good use. So baskets are coming around, food or money contributions. Thank you so much for those contributions. I left one thing out. If you got one, turn it off. And now Reverend Dennis Reynolds joins us for the worship.
Opening words this morning as we call ourselves into a more worshipful time and mood and mode. Were shared with me from the Reverend Carolyn Colbert, my mentor minister, who reminded us on many a Sunday, we are by our very essence loving and caring beings. Yet sometimes we forget. We come together in church to remember.
I'd like to ask now that Kimberly join me as we light our chalice. Chalice lighting words are by Nita Penfold, and they begin, no matter what they tell you.
Let it be about joy. Let it be about the sacred.
Self-surviving? No, thriving. Shining its way to knowledge within.
Let it be about blooming, the unfolding of the universe through you.
Because the story of you begins 15 billion years ago with that first flash of being. Please join us in From You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we
Let's welcome Reverend Reynolds back for A Story for All Ages.
Okay, the story I'd like to share this morning. I got the picture book up here in a minute. I'm just going to move the mic up a little bit. Then I don't have to bend over when I'm also manipulating the pages. Okay, I didn't loosen it that far. Am I going the wrong way? I may need some professional help here in a minute, but I think I can handle this. Thank you for your willingness to help out there. The book is titled Granddad's Prayers of the Earth, Douglas Wood, and illustrated by P.J. Lynch. And it is a Christopher Award winner. I'm not as familiar with that one as some of the other Newberries and such, but it's a lovely book that I enjoy, and I hope you will as well. Please listen carefully. When I was little, my granddad was my best friend. Being with him always made the world seem just right. Granddad and I liked to go for walks in the wood together. We didn't walk very far, or very fast, or very straight. While we walked, I would ask him questions about things I wasn't sure of. Why is it, Granddad, I would ask? And what if? And does it ever? One day I asked my granddad about prayers. For a long time, Granddad was quiet. He didn't say anything until we came to the tallest trees in the forest. And then he answered with a question. Do you know, boy, he whispered, that trees pray? I listened closely, but I couldn't hear them. See how they reach for the sky? He said they reach and reach for clouds and sun and moons and stars. And what else is reaching for heaven but a prayer? I thought about trees and kept listening for them, and while I thought, I sat down on an old mossy rock. Rocks pray too, said Granddad. Pebbles and boulders and old weathered hills, they are still and silent. And those are two important ways to pray. I thought hard about the rocks. I picked up a pebble and I stuck it in my pocket. We walked a little further and came to a small stream. The water splashed and sparkled and tiny fish hovered in the shadows. Do streams pray too, Granddad, I asked. Streams pray too, he answered, and lakes and rivers and waters of all kind. Sometimes they pray silently like the rocks. They lie still and calm, reflecting clouds or birds or sunsets or the first evening star. Sometimes they pray with movement, flowing across the face of the earth, giving themselves to the ocean, giving themselves to the sky, and beginning their journey all over again. Sometimes waters pray with laughter, chuckling to their friends, the rocks. And sometimes they pray by dancing, leaping into the air and falling back again. These are all ways to pray, said Granddad, but there are more. The tall grass prays as it waves its arms beneath the sky, and flowers pray as they breathe their sweetness into the air. The wind prays as it whispers and moans and sighs. It's saying a prayer and singing a hymn at the same time. A bird prays when it sings the first song of the morning, and it prays in that silent moment just before it sings. And the robin's last song at sundown is an evening prayer. All the beings of the world pray, said my granddad, as they slip through the forest or sparkle in the water, as they climb mountainsides or soar into the clouds or burrow into the earth. Each living thing gives its life to the beauty of all life, and that gift is a prayer. Then we were quiet, my granddad and I. He was watching something far away, and I was thinking about all he had said about rocks and trees and grass and birds and flowers. Finally, I asked him to tell me about the prayers of people. Granddad smiled and ruffled my hair. People pray some of the most wonderful prayers of all, he said. Bending down to smell a flower can be a prayer, said Granddad. Quietly watching the sunrise, feeling the slow turning of the earth and saying hello to a new day is one of the oldest prayers. Standing in a snowy wood on a winter day and watching your breath become part of the breath of the world is a way to pray. Making music or painting a picture can be a prayer. Holding hands around the table with family and friends, remembering all that holds us together and giving thanks is one of the greatest prayers. Sometimes, said Granddad, people pray when they are sad or sick or lonely or have a problem too big to carry by themselves. They may say words they have learned from their parents or grandparents, but often they must find their own words. The important thing is to remember the words will always be right if they are real and true and come from the heart. We walked far enough, and Granddad said it was time to go back. But I had one last question. Are our prayers answered, Granddad, I asked. Granddad smiled. Most prayers are not really questions, he said. And if we listen very closely, a prayer is often its own answer. Like the trees and the winds and waters, we pray because we are here, not to change the world, but to change ourselves. Because it is when we change ourselves that the world is changed. My granddad and I went for many walks after that one, and I often listened for the prayers of the earth, but I was never sure I heard them. Then one day, my granddad was gone. And no matter how hard I prayed, he didn't come back. He couldn't come back. I prayed and prayed and prayed until I couldn't pray anymore. And so I didn't for a long time. And the world seemed dark and lonely without my granddad in it. Until one day, I went for a walk. I found a big rock under some tall trees, and I sat down on it. Overhead, the branches swayed, and a breeze whispered in the leaves. I heard a stream flowing nearby and a robin singing from a honeysuckle bush. And I heard something else, too. Something in the sounds of breezes and birds and water. I heard prayers. The earth was praying, just like Granddad said. So I joined in. Thank you, I prayed, for tall trees and sweet flowers, for still rocks and singing birds, and especially for my granddad. And as I prayed, something changed, and my granddad seemed somehow near. And for the first time in a long time, the world felt right. And there's simply some geese in flight. Thank you. Now it's time to sing out, kids, to head downstairs, or you guys are always welcome to hang out here and listen to a sermon and such whenever you want to. Or not.
Now is the time in our service when we will be lighting candles for joys and concerns or whatever it is in your heart that you might like to share. As you light candles, they may be verbal or nonverbal. If it's a spoken candle, we ask that you identify yourself and please keep your messages short. Kimberly will join us, and we'd like to have you form a line to my right. It is at this time in our service that we take the offering. The purpose of this church is to encourage all who gather here to grow generous in spirit and in action. We now take this offering, which allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit in offering something that will sustain our congregation, this self-supporting church, as we grow. Your gifts, of course, will be most appreciated. Again, thank you so much for your generosity. We now have a special song by Sean Shea, a new version of Everything Possible by Fred Small.
And I talked to Sean yesterday. I just wanted to offer a little brief introduction. And this song I chose both for its content, and I've had the opportunity to know Fred, who's an exemplar for me of our ability to change. Fred worked for many years as an attorney, then launched a career as a traveling folk musician and songwriter. And then, midlife, he went off to Harvard Divinity School to train to be a Unitarian Universalist minister. And this particular song was written when he had a request from two same-sex parents who said a lot of the songs that are out there didn't seem to be what they'd hoped their children might hear. And Fred gifted them and us with this song, which Sean picked up that he updated the lyrics slightly in 2022, so they'll be projected here. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Fred.
We have cleared off the table, leftover sin, washed the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whoever you will. You can travel any country where your heart needs, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Some children grow up strong and brown, while some are quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some take it slow, some go in their own way and time. Some women love women, some men love men, some leave every label behind. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible you'll find. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whoever you will. You can travel any country where your heart needs, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can travel around, you can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we ponder that deep within, I invite you to move into a time of space of contemplation and quiet reflection and meditation. A meditation in words and a bit of movement. So keep your hands free and just breathe in and out in the rhythm that seems right for you, for your body. In this time, as I share these words from Lisa Friedman, and invite you to move with me as we reach down to the floor to remember that wherever we bring ourselves is holy ground, and then to move to reach for the sky, to remember that we are part of a mystery much bigger than ourselves. And we reach out our hands to each other, touching or taking hands, to remember that we need one another and are part of one human family. We will join voices to remember that we each have a gift to offer to make the world a better place. I invite you now to join in the sacred sound of an Om. Just breathe out and hold it long, and we'll do 4 of them this morning. Om. 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 Just take a deep, full, but not record-setting, deep cleansing breath. A friend advises me that sometimes people do a cleansing breath and they breathe in so hard that it's like they're straining. Just keep it slow and gentle as we breathe together. We're going to listen to some words. They're from a poem I have asked to be shared with you this morning. It's titled, Now I Become Myself, and it's by the writer, poet, and memoirist May Sarton. It was first published in 1948. I discovered this week that in her 1984 memoir, At 70, Sarton had reflected on both the importance of her longtime life, which shared with her partner, Judy Matlock, and about her own Unitarian Universalist upbringing. News to me this week.
Now I Become Myself by May Sarton. It's taken time, many years and places. I have been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces, run madly as if time were there, terribly old, crying out a warning. Hurry, you will be dead before what? Before you reach the morning? Or the end of the poem is clear? Or love, safe in a walled city? Now to stand still, to be here, to feel my weight and density. The black shadow on the paper is my hand, the shadow of a word as thought shapes the shaper. It falls heavily on the page, and it is heard. All fuses now falls into place, from wish to action, from word to silence. My work, my love, my time, my space, my face, gathered into one intense gesture, growing like a plant. Slowly, as the ripening fruit, fertile, detached, and always spent, falls, but does not exhaust the root. So all the poem is, can give, made so and root, grows in me to become the song, made so and rooted by love. Now there is time, and time is young. Oh, in this single hour I live all of myself and do not move. I, the pursued, who madly ran, stand still, and stop the sun. So, Reverend Dignas, let your life sing, dear.
You think I be there for me for who knows how long? From wish to action, word to silence, my work, my love, my time, my face, gathered into one intense gesture of growing like a plant, as slowly as the ripening fruit. Thus does the poet describe the art of becoming, of creating a poem, of creating one's own authentic life. Now, creating an authentic life is a slow process, and it's an unfolding that continues in differing ways throughout our lifetime. The manner of such an unfolding is unique to each of us and emerges within each of us in its own time. This year is the 25th anniversary of the first publishing of the Quaker writer and teacher Parker Palmer's book titled Let Your Life Speak. There's now even a special 25th anniversary edition being published that you can order via Amazon or I'm sure other sites as well. The first book was published back at the dawn of this millennium. I think that's a particularly auspicious time to launch a book about knowing oneself well and becoming one's truest self. I know I was blessed to encounter it the first time while I was considering new directions in my life. Though much in the world of life possibilities in our culture and in my own life has changed over those 25 years, I found re-engaging with this book inspiring and beneficial. I want to explore today how Palmer's notions about defining and actualizing a meaningful life through some stories, mine and especially those from others whose courageous action to fully embrace their deeply known authentic self can inspire and encourage each of us. I invite you to take time in the coming weeks or whenever the open space occurs for you to look closely at your own story, your own growing, your own ripening. The work of self-exploration and following up through action on what one finds on such a journey within are daunting tasks. Though, with the help of others, be they dear friends, professional probers of the human psyche, or a faith community, can help. The heavy lifting in such a process is primarily one's own work. Nobody else can do that work for you. And like many other difficult undertakings, sometimes the first steps are the hardest. Transformation is both deeply rewarding work and sometimes just plain hard work. Palmer talks in his book about how the process of letting your life speak begins with deep listening and inward exploration. As he noted, before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. He continues, before you tell your life what truths and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody, what values you represent. Palmer uses the word vocation to describe the kind of life-shaping understanding of oneself, this kind of understanding. He reminds us that becoming one's true self is not done with willpower. Vocation, he writes, does not come from willfulness. It comes from within, from listening. I must listen to my life and try to understand what it is truly about, quite apart from what I would like it to be about, or my life will never represent anything in the real in the world, no matter how earnest my intentions. Before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am. I must listen for the truths and values of the heart of my own identity, not the standards by which I must live, but the standards by which I cannot help but live if I am living my own life. Elsewhere, Palmer reminds us that storytelling has always been at the heart of being human because it serves some of our most basic needs, passing along our traditions, confessing failings, healing wounds, engendering hope, and strengthening our sense of community. This morning's story for all ages described how the young boy, who I suspect may have been the author, Douglas Wood himself, was wisely tutored by his granddad in the art of deep listening. Though what that which he listened for he called prayers, I'd suggest that what some call prayers are none unlike the unnamed messages and sounds of deep truth that many of us hear out there in the natural world, or deep within, that we might label as insight or inspiration, or that we might choose not to name at all. What we feel most deeply in what we hear and know at the core of our being needs no name. In childhood, all too often we are told how we should behave and what kind of person we should be, what a good boy or a good girl should do, how to be a good kid. Judgmental indoctrination has tried to shape many of us into someone else's notion of how we should lead our life, to encourage us to fill roles in our life story that are not truly our own. As an alternative, the songwriter Fred Small offered to us and to any of his would-be listeners, each of us, an invitation to find our own truth and to be whoever you want to be. The process of internal shaping by others began for me when I was a very tiny kid. I was a chubby little kid, and I had limited skills in those things boys, especially in the 1950s, were supposed to be good at, like sports and fixing things. I was not good at either. Though my parents were less judging than some, I soon learned what I needed to do to be a good boy, whether or not that definition of good was consistent with my own growing understanding of myself and what I believed to be true. The judgmental fundamentalist church of my childhood offered even narrower limits than the ones encountered home. There I was given the additional burden of teachings that informed me that to fail to meet the standards of rightness would result in eternal damnation. I remember how by adolescence I had become so fearful of divine retribution that my emerging sexual urges were sources of deep shame and genuine fear, rather than the beginning of the pleasure and joy that healthy sexuality offers. I truly feared damnation for lusty thoughts. As I've shared here before, I was fortunate in my teen years to be invited to join a youth group at a Unitarian Universalist church. The teachings and the invitation to seek my own truth that I found there resonated deeply within. It offered a breath of fresh air to my psyche. No doubt many of you have discovered such a welcome invitation to become one's own self in a Unitarian Universalist community. Some of you have heard a story I share about a friend from the Eugene church who said they felt like most of their life they never fit in anywhere. They felt like they were a square peg trying to fit into round holes. And they never fit until they showed up at UU. And when I asked them, so did you find a bunch of square holes here? And they said, no, quite the contrary. I found myself in the midst of a community of a whole bunch of other square pegs who didn't fit in, and it didn't matter. We could be exactly who we were together. A place where one could find one's own vocation rather than fitting predetermined norms. I've also shared here before the mission statement of the Eugene Church, which that gathered community shares every Sunday morning. Empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world. Empowered, transformation, and service. Transformation recognizes that the true self we are shifts over time. Who I was then is not who I am now, and not who I yet will become. It is through our own seeking, but most profoundly through our own deep listening and our openness to hear something new and different which offers that can be encountered, that opens us up to new possibilities. Transformation, if we are truly open to ourselves to it, is a lifelong process. I have a friend in the Eugene Church who I've known for some 30 years now. He's in his 40s, and he grew up in that church and is active there with his family in a number of ways. On a recent Sunday, I showed up to church, and I saw my friend David had a stick-on name tag. You know, the kind we give to visitors and folks who haven't been here much. And I approached David, and I teasingly said, "Hi, David, are you new here? I'm Dennis." David looked at me, took a breath, and smiled and said, "I'm always new here." Always new here. Here, like there, we can be new again and again. There, like here, in a community of love and safety, all can share their stories, both stories from our past and our visions and dreams for our yet to be realized futures. Here we can practice loving kindness and be tutored in deep listening to each other, to the voices within, and to all that speaks to us and shapes us. In church, we can seek our evolving, changing, and transforming true self. For some in our culture, the search for one's true identity and the actions needed to make that a reality are particularly challenging. One person whose story I would like to share this morning is that of Austin Arrowroot, who is a new acquaintance in the Eugene Church and whom I hope will grow in friendship. On June 2nd, Austin shared his story. He's giving me permission to share a bit of it with you here today. The title of that service, which was just last Sunday, was Pride at Church. Austin began by introducing himself, sharing his name and his he/him pronouns. He then asked a question about why he should, as a heterosexual white male, should speak up at a pride service. He then began to answer his own query. He began by offering us a heartfelt call for the liberation of all, reminding us that for each of us, our freedom as liberation is bound up with the liberation of all. He then told his story, how he came to a place where he could let his life sing. It was quite a journey. You see, Austin did not always use he/him pronouns. As a child and well into adulthood, he had used she/her pronouns. After many years of living as an out lesbian, he still felt something was not true for him, that there was a disconnect between his inner self and the way he lived each day that was becoming a barrier to being his authentic self. So after some deep soul searching and thoughtful therapy, he began the gender transition process. He had supportive community and an understanding beloved traveling with him. First, there was hormone therapy, then surgeries, the details of which he appropriately did not share with us. What he did share was the gratitude and deep sense of wholeness he now feels, a deep sense of wholeness. He acknowledges that he can now pass as a heterosexual male, yet he is called to not be silent. He spoke not only of the need to stand up for LGBTQAI plus rights, but also lifted up the value of assuring that everyone has the right, and I dare say the responsibility, to be the best themselves possible. His confidence and his self-assurance speak volumes. Hearing him speak from that pulpit and talking to him with more after the service, I knew I was with someone honest and genuine, with someone who had found their own truth. All of our life can be a continual search for our own truth. Parker Palmer reminded me that Gandhi titled his autobiography, "My Experiment with Truth." In different chapters of our life, the elements of such an experiment changes. For those of us who have parented or taught and are in other ways engaged with children, we are also called to shape and to not overly shape the search for truth in the next generation. As we age, we are called to look more closely at our legacy, to listen deeply for emerging answers to the questions about what kind of ancestor I am called to be. It is vitally important that throughout the life cycle, we ask again and again, who or what I am called to be, what is mine to do, and to listen deeply for the answer. I'd like to end this morning with the words of the former Oregon Poet Laureate William Stafford, who offers us yet another lesson in listening and learning. Sometime when the river is ice, ask me mistakes I have made. Ask me whether what I have done is my life. Others have come in their slow ways to my thought, and some have tried to help or to hurt. Ask me what difference their strongest love or hate has made. I will listen to what you say. You and I can turn and look at the silent river and wait. We know the current is there, hidden, and there are comings and goings from miles away that hold the stillness exactly before us. What the river says, that is what I say. What the river says. May you listen to the messages from the river, from the poets, from nature, and from deep within. May it be so.
And now it is time for sermon conversation. Please raise your hand if you have something you want to say to Reverend Dennis.
Comments or just sitting with the river is also an acceptable option.
Thank you, Dennis. I really appreciated the whole thing, but I'm thinking about the river and how sometimes we realize that the song of our life needs a little updating. Recently, I was thinking about my song that I've shared here a number of times, Underground River, and how it honors the stillness of the water in the pool that reflects. And yet, sometimes the water in the river is swirling in circles. And sometimes it's plunging through the rapids. And I doubt if the water is complaining, oh, I don't get to be still. It
It
is,
just is.
it is in prayer, whether it's splashing or reflecting. And so I'm in the process of updating my song.
Well, and particularly the reality of underground rivers, because they're just there. Even when we don't see them, they're still there. And they're still flowing and doing what they're doing. We just don't see them at the moment. There's a wonderful spot up the Mackenzie River, Blue Pool, or actually it's called Takanich Falls. I don't go there anymore unless it's like a rainy day because it's Instagram popular now. And so lots of people go there to take a photo. And the Mackenzie River used to flow over these waterfalls, and it went underground. And then it bubbles back up at the bottom of this pool where the falls used to be, and it's really deep there, and it's really blue. But until it emerged again, it just was. You know, there's a piece of the river that disappears from our view, yet it's still flowing cold and clear. Oh yeah, underground rivers.
Wow. I feel like we just were gifted with such an incredible experience, and that I just was out in the most beautiful place in the wilderness, and my heart is so full right now. Thank you so much. I have a little postscript to your incredible talk. I was just sitting here listening and realizing, oh, an anniversary is kind of slipping by me, and I didn't notice it, that it's almost to the day 30 years last week since I started my journey with the Unitarian Universalist Church. And you just filled in something that's been kind of floating around my mind. So we're round pegs trying to fit in a square hole, or square pegs trying to fit in a round hole, right? And then we come to the right place in our lives, whether it's inside or outside or experience driven, and we can realize that when we're not trying to fit into a hole that's the wrong shape, then we're whole. And so is everybody else.
Yeah, you know, you can be anybody you want to be. Okay.
Okay.
You got one?
I was really moved by the whole service. Thank you very much. When you shared your personal story about moving through the early congregation that you were in to the Unitarian Universalist, it's been a lifelong joy and quest for me to like study all different world religions, and yet there's such a deep overlay and embeddedness of judgment that is ironic. I always marvel that unconditional love and belonging, which is the essence of wholeness and belonging, it actually so rarely fully shows up in spiritual circles and or spiritual gatherings. So thank you for the beauty of what was expressed this morning and what's always expressed here when I've shown up. Yeah, it's very blessed. Thank you.
Well, it's, as I shared in the sermon a couple of weeks ago, why I'm a Universalist. That's who we are. I found it early, and I, rediscovered it just, about 30 to a little more than 30 years ago. For a long time, this was, UU was not part of my life, and it's richer again.
Many things have happened to me this morning, to which I will share later. But the most important thing I'm thinking about as you're speaking, someone of us has said, when they found the Unitarian Church, they could be here and not fib. Whereas being in other churches, although the feelings were there, they were fibbing because they weren't hitting all the bases of what you had to believe. And I just want us all to be open and aware that part of the joy of being here in this church is that we are not fibbing.
Yeah, we each can let our life sing. And this isn't the only place. Parker Palmer is a Quaker. Sean encountered him at, I'm blanking on the name of the center, Pendle Center, where Palmer has been a teacher for many years. And, there are other traditions. And I think fundamentally faith was about that. In most early churches, some structures and bureaucracies, unfortunately, have shifted some of that to issues about power within an institution rather than about core values.
I've had quite a journey, a couple of days. I'd like to share a little bit of that with you. And for some of you, it might be a little familiar. When Kimberly and I tried to read May Sarton's poem, we stumbled and fluttered and could not do it. And so I took it home to JC and I said, JC, would you read this to me and help me understand it? And I think I might be losing a battery. She did. And I realized as I was thinking about May Sarton's life and looking up,
Batteries.
I think it's a story longer than the battery.
We'll get some new batteries before we have our shared conversation about more pragmatic issues, things like real estate. I want to just remind you that in just given time, we're going to want to get some coffee and we'll send some wonderful treats back there. We'll circle up in just a few minutes for that informal conversation. And once we get settled, I've pledged to people we'll be about an hour. It's a beautiful day out there, and I've got some garden resurrection to do at my house, and I'm sure other folks have opportunities to be outside. But before we go, we're going to share a little more time together in worship, and I invite you to rise in body and spirit for hymn number 396, I Know This Rose Will Open.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open.
stand for our closing words of benediction from Gordon McKeeman. How does one address a mystery?
Cautiously. Let us go cautiously then to the end of our certainty, to the boundary of all we know, to the rim of uncertainty, to the perimeter of the unknown which surrounds us.
Reverently, let us go with a sense of awe, a feeling of approaching the powerful holy, whose lightning slashes the sky, whose persistence splits concrete with green sprouts, whose miracles are present in every place and moment.
Hopefully, out of our need for wholeness in our own lives, the reconciliation of mind and heart, the conjunction of reason and passion, the intersection of the timeless with time.
Quietly, for no words will explain the inarticulate or summon the presence that is always present, even in our absence.
But what shall I say?
Anything. Any anger, any hope, any fear, any joy, any request, any word that comes from the depth of being addressed to being itself.
Or perhaps nothing. No words. Excuse me. Where did you just read? Or perhaps nothing. No complaint, no request, no entreaty, no thanksgiving, no praise, no blame, no pretense of knowing or of not knowing.
Simply be in the intimate presence of mystery, unashamed, unadorned, unafraid.
And at the end say, Amen. Amen. Shalom. Salam. And blessed be.
Please join us in our closing circle. We make a circle and would love to share hands with each other and sing, Go Lift It Up.